the runaround on solving thefts.
The cold front beginning to push down from the upper plains. We've got a nice afternoon ahead, but just wait till what happens after midnight as the cold is coming. The latest from the Skywatch Weather Center.
Also, if you've heard of escape rooms, now there's a diving center in France that's making them more difficult and doing them underwater.
The 4 states' most watched news starts now.
This is KOAM News at noon. I'm Bronte Sorotsky. We're going to toss it over first to Michael for a first look at the weather.
Bronte, I feel like we are on the clock here. Now we've got the rest of the afternoon and most of the evening, but what a stark contrast between what we have in the 4 states compared to the cold and the winter extremes they have in the upper plains. And what we'll see is this front gradually just sink down on us until we get into Saturday morning. But for the time being, really just some light rain is about all that we've had so far. It hasn't been too bad whatsoever, and really just trace amounts of precipitation have hardly picked up anything measurable. It is still kind of hanging around though, especially on the eastern portion of southeast Kansas here. Not a whole lot has crossed over on the state line, but like I said, about 1/10 of an inch right there through portions of Wilson, Woodson, Bourbon County and whatnot. Tapers off as you push down to the south, and then we push in to southwest Missouri. As far as the wind tracker, still moving in from the south-southwest with about 15 to 20 miles per hour. We'll get into our wind gusts here in a little bit. It's been manageable with the highest winds really off in central Kansas. And our temperatures, this is just delightful. 58 degrees is where we are in Joplin, 52 in Pittsburgh, and 51 right now in Monette. As we transition into tonight, watch the temperatures begin to drop, especially after midnight. There we are, all the way down to the 20s Saturday morning, and that's the actual temperature. That's not the wind chill. As the cloud cover clears off, we're not able to warm up hardly a bit until we get into Sunday. Speaking of Sunday, Bronte, coming up here in just a little bit. Let's see what we're waking up to on Saturday and Sunday as far as our wind chills go. Check in on LA and the West Coast for their Super Bowl weather and get you ready for Valentine's Day.
All right, we'll look forward to it. Thanks, Michael. A business owner says he's frustrated with the Joplin Police Department's response following a series of crimes. Josh Maresh owns Jomo Moving in Jomo Bazaar. He says in December of 2020, someone accessed the business's bank account and routing numbers. He says that person then began paying their own bills under their own name. His frustration comes with the police department's response, which he says has been silent.
They've told me they're overworked, underpaid, and that they've got a large caseload. That's what I've been told, time and time and time again. Nothing more. Nothing more. And yes, I mean, I've got the names. I went to the businesses that they cashed my checks at, got the evidence, turned everything over to JPD for nothing.
We'll hear more of that story later. The city of Mulberry, Kansas can move forward with a lawsuit against one of the world's largest energy companies. The city claims BP gouged it with high price increases during last February's freezing weather. A Crawford County judge dismissed a motion by the company to end the lawsuit. That means residents can sue BP for violating anti-profiteering laws. In February of last year, the city of fewer than 500 residents received a bill for $51,000. BP yesterday announced a 2021 profit of $12.8 billion. Joplin police fenced off a sinkhole that opened up in Landreth Park. Police say the hole appears to be about 25 feet deep and there's water at the bottom. Joplin Public Works is trying to figure out what to do about it. For now, they've put up a temporary fence. A Missouri bill aims to change the way patients of physical therapy can receive treatment. Currently, patients need either a referral or prescription from a doctor to receive physical therapy. House Bill 1555 would change the current law. The bill's sponsor, Representative David Gregory, says it would save patients both time and money.
So one of the biggest problems with it is, we all know, it's hard to get into your physician, your primary care physician. It could take weeks, and oftentimes you're hurting, right? You pulled a muscle, you did whatever. So what this does is it cuts out that loop to allow people to go directly to physical therapy, and you're also not paying to see your physician.
The bill will go through another round of votes in the House next week before it can move to the Senate. In Weir, Kansas, the EPA gave residents information about the cleanup process of a nearby Superfund site. Officials say the main concern of the Cherokee Zinc Weir smelter site is lead contamination from years of mining. This meeting gave residents an update on the cleanup, which is still in the investigation phase to come up with a remediation plan.
this. They need to have precautions in place for young children and our residents and our community here.
The site was added to the National Priorities List in September of last year, which allows for extra funding for cleanup. Now, topping World Watch, the U.S. continues to warn that a Russian invasion of Ukraine could be imminent, and is warning U.S. citizens in the country that they will not be rescued if war breaks out. Natalie Brand has more details from the White House.
President Biden emphasized his warning to American citizens living in Ukraine. The time to get out is now.
We're dealing with one of the largest armies in the world. This is a very different situation, and things could go crazy quickly.
The president told NBC News' Lester Holt that he will not send U.S. troops into Ukraine to rescue Americans if Russia invades.
That's a world war. When Americans and Russians start shooting at one another, we're in a very different world than we've ever been in.
The White House says President Biden is hosting a conference call with world leaders to discuss Russia's continued buildup of military forces along Ukraine's border. Secretary of State Antony Blinken says the State Department is drawing down personnel from the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine because of what he calls troubling signs of Russian escalation.
We're in a window when an invasion could begin at any time. And to be clear, that includes during the Olympics.
Outside the U.S. Embassy in Kyiv, residents of Ukraine were mixed about Russia's next move. This professor says he believes it's 50-50 whether an invasion will happen. As new Russian forces arrive near the border, diplomatic talks are continuing as well. But a key sticking point has been NATO's expansion east. Ukraine is not a member of NATO. Russia wants to keep it that way, but NATO has said closing membership is a non-starter, and it's beefing up its defenses in nearby member countries.
We are also assessing whether we should adjust our more longer-term presence in the eastern part of the alliance.
A U.S. Stryker squadron from Germany arrived in Romania Friday. Natalie Brand, CBS News, the White House.
The U.S. Air Force announced Friday morning that it is deploying an F-16 squadron to Romania to enhance the security of the NATO country. This is on top of the nearly 2,000 soldiers from the 82nd Airborne who arrived in Romania earlier this week. And that's a look at today's top stories and weather in our first 7 minutes. Up next on KOAM News at Noon. A diving center in France is making a splash with riddles and challenges underwater. And later, Howard shows us how to make candy bar slab cookies in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen. You've probably heard of the escape room phenomenon, but chances are you haven't tried one like this. A diving center in France is making a splash with riddles and challenges underwater. Riley Carlson reports.
All the pressure of an escape room with a twist. Players in Toulouse are diving into a new challenge, strapping on their scuba gear for the only game of its kind in France.
Au début, c'est stressant.
At the beginning, it's stressful, says Vincent Binet. I said to myself, do I have the skills? Divers work to solve a series of riddles or tasks made even tougher by not being able to speak and changing light levels. When they're successful, they can move on to the next room and a new puzzle.
On comprend qu'il faut travailler en équipe.
Remy Claude says you have to work as a team, with one person finding clues, one taking notes, and another doing the riddles. 2 divers monitor the players for safety, watching how long they've been underwater and checking oxygen levels. When all the clues are found, divers head to dry land to put them all together and decipher a code while trying to beat the clock. Taking the popular escape challenge to new depths. Riley Carlson, CBS News, London.
Divers need to have completed at least their Level 1 certification to take part in the underwater escape room. Still to come on KOAM News at Noon, Mr. Food.
Satisfy your sweet tooth on game day with the ultimate game day dessert. We'll show you how to make it. You can decide if you want to share it.
But first, Michael Hayslip returns with your complete forecast.
Bit of a picturesque noon sky here over 7th and Rangeland. We see the blue kind of hanging right over the intersection. For the most part, Joplin stayed on the dry side. Then, as we look out to the northwest right there, that's where you can see the clouds beginning to darken up, and that's where actually we got a little rain that's coming down as well as we push right along the state line. And of course, if we were right at 7th and Rangeland, that's kind of the direction that we were looking. That's that cloud cover that we were just looking at from the intersection right there. Rain's been relatively light. It hasn't been really too bad. Right here, just north of Pittsburgh, about the Frontenac-Arma area over Highway 126 headed toward Lamar. Starting to pick up just a little bit, but certainly no travel concerns as we progress through our Friday. Anything that we had down to the south now right along the Arkansas-Missouri state line. And if you've got travel plans for later tonight, shouldn't have any worries. Everything that was up in Kansas City earlier this morning, now a thing of the distant past, as a matter of fact, is on the other side of I-70 for the most part. No real accumulation numbers to speak of. I think by the time it's said and done, we'll see about 1/10 of an inch in portions of southeast Kansas, but everybody else considered just trace amounts. Actually, won't even bump up on the monthly total at all. Let's go back to 7th and Rangeline and dive into our temperatures and our wind. A very comfortable 58 degrees right now. North wind, 15 miles per hour, and low humidity. So we got to revisit the old fire warnings, the elevated fire weather, I should say. 58 right now in Joplin, 54 in Chanute. Carthage, just about to the 60-degree mark. Probably going to be the first ones to get there, if not Joplin, and then down to the south, a very comfortable 54 in Miami. If we go back, let's take it from Monday here. Well, that's what we'll consider this week, from Monday through to today. Average high, 56.8 degrees, and here we are smack dab in the middle of February. However, by the time we get into the weekend, it's going to feel more like last Thursday than it did any other day this week. Saturday will definitely be our coldest day, really since last Friday, and of course that's when we were in the midst of the snowpack and just trying to claw our way out and get above freezing. For the most part, the cold front not fast moving, and the reason we can tell that is if we do our 24-hour temperature change, even through portions of northern Iowa, central Iowa there in Des Moines, still a positive change from their temperatures at this point in time yesterday. As you work out to the west, of course, a little elevation there certainly in Denver makes a huge difference with the front moving in. But for us, yeah, about 8 degrees warmer than what we were at this point in time on Thursday, and Thursday was absolutely delightful. However, remember Thursday came in from the south, and just about, say, 10 o'clock this morning, we saw the complete shift right now, so we're going to work our northerly winds in from 15 to 20. That's why we really won't have much of an afternoon bump up. Combine that along with the cloud cover, of course. So as we see this thing move down, it really has a lot to do with the jet stream that bottomed out earlier this morning, about right here. Now we see it beginning to sink. That allows everything from the north, an open lane to come toward us. And so what it'll do is simply fall down. So we go from the super cold that we're anticipating on Saturday to a Super Bowl Sunday. We're out on the West Coast. Get this is no joke. LA sitting right now at 76. They've got a heat advisory throughout Southern California right along the Pacific. That's right, a heat advisory. They've broken several records already this week. And then we transition from a heat advisory back to the 4 states. And I tell you what, look at that right there behind me. Well, that's a wind warning. Look at what's up to the north. They have a blizzard warning running from the Canadian border just about through central Minnesota. A blizzard warning. That's right. We got heat warnings on one coast. We got blizzard warnings then in the upper plains. But to give you an idea, that blizzard warning actually expires about 3 p.m. for them. And that kind of gives you a time frame about how long it's going to take our cold to get here. We'll be fine even for the evening and nighttime hours. Not too bad at all. It's when we get ready to turn into Saturday. Because once we do, don't have to worry about any precipitation flipping over, so that's a positive. No travel concerns, but we just keep on dropping down all throughout Saturday morning. Try to stabilize there in the afternoon, but I doubt we even get back to freezing. So what's it going to feel like? Well, at midnight, we're starting to see the teens, mid-20s, and then, if you want to walk out your door, say in between 8 and 10, I'd layer up because it's going to be stuck in single digits. Then as we get into Sunday, all right, you got plans? You want to try to get something done before the Super Bowl? Once again, it is going to be chilly, chilly, chilly. Figuring anywhere feeling like from about 16 to 25, about as good as we're going to get. Now, our actual temperature on Sunday, that's going to be able to make it up into the 40s. And you'll notice we kind of get split by the precip on both sides. That snow that you see out there by Denver, instead of making a beeline toward us, it'll just fall down to the south, and then everything that generates out of the Gulf rides from East Texas through Louisiana. We will be talking about rain, however, and possible thunderstorm activity for Wednesday and Thursday, but also too, Bronte, we'll be back in the 60s.
Well, all right. Thanks, Michael. To honor today's 4-state hero, Alan Marriott. Private First Class Alan Marriott served from November 1942 to January 1946. He served in Italy and South Africa during World War II. During his service, he was a tank crewman and tank operator. He earned 3 Bronze Stars and a Good Conduct Medal. His hometown, Carthage, Missouri. We thank you, Alan Marriott, our 4-state hero. Wanting to make something sweet for game day? Howard shows us how to make a sweet treat that's enough to feed a crowd in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen.
Whether you're going to your neighbor's house to watch the big game this Sunday, or you're planning on staying home, we've got a treat they'll make wherever you watch it that much sweeter. It's a slab cookie, which is not only tasty and trendy, it's the ultimate game day winner. To make it, we begin by making a basic graham cracker crumb crust, which we press into the bottom of a rim baking sheet before popping it in the oven. While that's baking, we beat together a couple sticks of butter along with some brown and white sugar. Then we beat in some eggs and vanilla. We add flour and salt. And after it comes together, we slowly stir in some chocolate chips and walnuts. Now we spread this over the crust, sprinkle the top with some chopped candy bars, and back into the oven it goes. Once it cools, we cut it into bars. What's nice about slab cookies is that they're easy to eat and one batch feeds a crowd. To get the recipe for what we call our candy bar slab cookies, simply visit our website. I'm Howard with Kelly in the Mr. Food Test Kitchen, where today we found a super game day way for you to say, ooh, it's so good.
You can find this recipe along with a lot more good food from the Mr. Food Test Kitchen. Just go to our website at koamnewsnow.com. Now here's a look at 4-state market prices.
Light sprinkles for this afternoon. Great February temperatures. Get ready for Saturday morning. That cold front is a-coming. It's going to drop in on us. It's going to feel about like, in between, say, 6 and 10 degrees tomorrow morning. That is absolutely no reason why you should not be out at Crimson Villas, joining Bronte Sorotsky and myself for the Polar Plunge to celebrate our Special Olympic athletes here in the 4 states.
It wouldn't be a polar plunge if it wasn't cold.
Oh, it's
right?
perfect timing.
Gotta live up to the name.
That's right.
All right, Dad, what do we have coming up today at 5?
Well, at 5, as states around the country lift indoor mask mandates, many have questions about whether to still mask. We're going to look at research that shows it's most protective if everyone masks, but experts say people can still benefit from mask wearing when no others are wearing them. Plus, we meet the VFW's Missouri Teacher of the Year, and a Pittsburgh woman who won a new car in August with the Kansas Lottery finally receives her new wheels. Hope you join us for those stories, a lot more, of course. It's all coming up today on KOAM News at 5.
Thanks for joining us for KOAM News at Noon. We'll see you right back here at 5 o'clock.